The self is devoid of the senses. Hence, though the doer of everything, he is as if inert. We can either describe awareness as what is doing everything, or we can say that it's doing nothing. We can say that nothing is happening whatsoever, or we can say that everything is happening. We can come at it from either angle. One enjoys a lifespan of just 100 years. Why does the immortal self run after the sensual pleasures during this brief period? Just 100 years, it might seem like quite a generous assessment of our lifespan. But this is a standard Hindu figure for the average lifespan. Apparently in previous ages the lifespan of the human individual was thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. But because of the times we live in, it's been reduced to 100 years. But what it's saying is, I think it's trying to get us to identify with the immortal self. When you've got a sense of your identity, what your identity really is, as opposed to notions of what your identity is, then there's no reason to be running after sensual pleasures. If the world and its objects are real, even then it does not stand to reason that the conscious self should seek the inert objects. And of course, if they are not real, nothing but unhappiness can result from their pursuit. We do love our possessions, don't we? We're often told that we're the proud owner of this or that piece of equipment. We identify very much with our possessions, I suppose, and I think this is what we can look at, is how we identify with our possessions. There's the whole keep up with the Joneses phenomenon, isn't there? Whereas if so-and-so's got something, then you've got to get the next best model, because that's part of your status. It relates to who you think you are, to notions of your personal identity. Give up the desires of your heart. You are what you are in this world. Knowing this, sport in this world. So it seems to be a contradiction there. It seems to be a contradiction. Give up the desires of your heart, and then it says, sport in this world. In other words, there's no reason why you shouldn't enjoy yourself. You do what you follow your inclinations, I suppose, as long as they're not damaging yourself or other people. Otherwise you ought to get some help with your inclinations or do something about them. But that's part of being who you are in this world. In the very presence of the self, all activities take place in this world, just as in the very presence of a lamp there is light. The lamp has no intention to shine. Even so, the self does not intend to do everything, and yet everything happens in its very presence. You may adopt one or the other of the two attitudes. 1. I am the omnipresent being that does nothing, and 2. I am the doer of all actions in this world. In both cases you will arrive at the same state of perfect equanimity, which is immortality. You will be free from likes and dislikes, attraction and aversion. You will be rid of foolish feelings like someone served me or someone else hurt me. And these are to do with notions of status or victimhood. And these notions are all tied up with identity. And when we realize that everything is happening within our awareness, then you can say that everything is happening within you. But I'm not sure about adopting either of these attitudes. I am the omnipresent being that does nothing, or I am the doer of all actions. The danger with adopting these attitudes is that they can get hijacked by the notions of your personal self. You know, when you start saying, I am the omnipresent being that does nothing, it's a bit dodgy. There's truth in it, ultimately, but it's so easy to assume that that I is the egoistic I, and when that happens, you're in big trouble. You just reinforce this notion quite horrifically, actually. Hence, O Rama, you may feel, I am not the doer, I do not exist, or I am the doer and I am everything. Yes, you may feel this. This may be the feeling, but you don't expound this. Or inquire into the nature of the self, who am I, and realize I am not any of this that is attributed to me. Rest established in the self, which is the highest state of consciousness, in which the best among the holy men who know of this state ever dwell. Well, I don't know about the highest state of consciousness, it's really the only state of consciousness. It might be worth having another look at this passage and see if it can reveal a bit more. In the very presence of the self, all activities take place in this world. Basically everything is happening. Everything is happening. There's no intention behind it. The lamp has no intention to shine. Within this, there's awareness. There's awareness of awareness, and we can call this the self. And everything's happening within that awareness. So we can then say maybe, I'm the omnipresent being that does nothing. So here we're told that we may adopt one or other of the two attitudes. Let's have a look at this again. I am the omnipresent being that does nothing, and 2, I am the doer of all actions in this world. It's not about adopting attitudes. An attitude is simply another notion or a belief. But when you turn to awareness, when you turn your attention to itself, there's usually a colour to it. We're sometimes told that that bliss arises, and that might happen. But there might be a kind of colour, and you might also think, well, so what? What's so special about this awareness? And there's nothing special about it, actually. It's very common. Everybody has access to it. But there could be a certain colouring. You might think, well, this is just part of little old me. No big deal. But it is a big deal, and this is where the Yoga Vasishta plays an important part. Because that awareness, everything arises within it. That should be immediately apparent. When you're in touch with that awareness, you realise everything arises within it. So is it just about little old you or little old me? It's cosmic. It's cosmic, and so we can then have a look at the colouring which is there when the attention is resting in itself, and that colouring is very, very subtle, and it's then that we can maybe realise that this is the omnipresent awareness, the infinite consciousness, omnipresent being that's actually doing nothing. Or we can realise that this is the only thing that's actually doing anything. In either case will be led to perfect equanimity, which is immortality, because it's beyond the self, it's beyond notions of the self and of time and space. So this is the context within which we might adopt an attitude, because the subtle attitudes are already there. Even when the attention comes back to itself and rests in pure consciousness, there's still a colouring there which is very subtle, and it needs to be brought into awareness and challenged, actually, by not so much adopting an attitude, but by considering a particular attitude. And these two attitudes are given here. Two possible attitudes are given here.